All right, hey everyone. Before we get into this video tonight, I just wanted to say that the match for Clifton Erickson and Jordan Sill was sponsored by the longtime Montana Armbender premier sponsors and the Benskis and their Westgate repair shop. Again, these matches are only possible because we have such great sponsors. So please, if you are in the Great Falls area and you have any automotive repair needs, check out the Westgate repair shop and support our sponsors. Thank you, and let's get into the video. All right. Hey, everyone. Thank you for coming on again tonight as we continue this 2026 Montana Armbender series. Tonight, I will be joined by co-host Dakota Shipton, and we will have Clifton Erickson on. His opponent, Jordan Sill, is not able to join us again tonight, but that's okay. We got some more questions and answers from him, so we can keep this thing going. So first off, Clifton, for anyone who doesn't know you, even though you're pretty popular amongst our circle here, can you tell us where you're pulling out of, how long you've been pulling, and why this match was really interesting and what made you want to take it?
I'm pulling out of Bismarck, North Dakota. February will be 15 years that I've been doing this. This match, well, I lost to John Therrien, and the one guy. It was a toss up between Tim Talmadge and Jordan Sill, and then I wanted to do Tim Talmadge, but then I heard that he beat Jordan Sill, so then I was like, well, I'll try Jordan Sill then and try that. And that's really about it. Other than that, I mean, and plus Jordan Sill's been pulling. I mean, for the length of time that I've been pulling, he's been pulling. So I've seen him pull for a long time, and I've been to tournaments where he's at. We've never actually spoke person to person, or even actually just a little bit here recently on Facebook Messenger. But other than that, we've never really ran into each other. And I mean, he's elite. I'm just a peon compared to him, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, I feel like this, given the amount of time that you've both been in the sport in total, it is kind of surprising that you've never crossed paths before. Just, Jordan, he goes through phases where he's hyperactive and stuff like that. So definitely really cool to see this finally happening. And I feel like Jordan's also a really important opponent, kind of similar to like how John was, in that, like, if he's the type of person that, if you get in and you have a match with him and you're able to even do something with him, it's impressive, let alone if you're able to beat him, then you're officially on a lot of people's radars. He's kind of been like the gatekeeper for East versus West. It seems like when people get him, they seem to somehow get an invite or get a get looked at by East versus West, at least in the past. So definitely really excited to see how this turns out. Dakota, what are your kind of initial thoughts when you first heard about this?
I mean, I was excited, of course. Clifton and I, we've been training together quite a bit lately. We talk all the time. He just came up to Edmonton for a practice. We got to pull and train there. He's feeling really strong. I know Jordan still is very active. He's always around, and he's a good puller. But I think, I mean, my initial thoughts were that's a good match. But I think as time grows closer and everything, I do think Clifton's been putting in a lot of work. I know Clifton is the kind of guy where he like builds up and builds up. Like he hasn't really, you don't see him at tournaments, you don't see him at super matches, whereas Jordan's kind of, pulls here, pulls there and everywhere. And I think both of those have their pros and cons and benefits and non-benefits. But I think that right now, Clifton has his eyes on the prize in this. And I know that Sill's going to have lots of time to recover, lots of time for everything. But I think that like it's hard to see people who train more than Clifton. Like if you actually talk to Clifton and you actually see what he does behind the scenes, like there's a lot that goes into it there. And I mean, at least from my personal experience, like I know Clifton's very good at understanding what maybe didn't work. Like I know with the John Therrien match, he learned that maybe speed kind of killed him there. And then he went from there. And then with the Victor match, wasn't maybe speed, but it was more cupping. It was wrist containment. And I feel like kind of every time he gets exposed somewhere, you do see him come back and kind of fill in that hole. And I think it's interesting because I think Sill offers the same kind of attack that Victor would in a sense. Like he likes that top roll. He likes kind of like he doesn't maybe fully top roll like Victor does. He kind of comes over after. But I don't think Clifton's a guy you want to go sideways with. So I think
Right.
he's going to find himself wanting to go backwards more. So I think if you see Clifton filling in that hole that Victor kind of exposed, it can pose a lot of problems for a lot of people. And from what I felt, he's starting to fill in the hole. So
Yeah, you guys just recently got a little bit of table time together here up in Edmonton, right? And So that's definitely really cool insights there. I haven't had a chance to actually, honestly, I haven't been on across the table from Clifton in a long time.
Yeah, it's been a
So I
couple
don't,
years, Andrew, I think.
we talk a lot. So I feel like we have like insights and you obviously getting to pull them here. And like you said, from what we know, the insights, how we talk about training a lot behind, you know, behind the screen, I guess, if you want to say it over text, it is hard to see anyone wanting to go sideways with Clifton. I think a lot of people, like you said, because Clifton kind of shows up for these events that are really important to him, you see like these big bursts of progress. But I think a lot of people don't realize how dangerous it is to get into that kind of match with him. And I think that's the perfect lead up to some of these questions I got from Jordan, because I think you hit it really on the nail there,
Curious.
Dakota. So the first one, before we get into, because the little bit more relevant to what you just said one, but the first question I asked him just in general was, what do you know about Clifton as a competitor and where do you see his strengths? And, Jordan said that he's only seen him compete once at the last Armbender. He hasn't done any further research on him. He definitely looks like he has some power, and if he can get inside and get the match wrist to wrist, but if he can get me wrist on wrist, he'll quickly realize that he needs a new game plan. So I feel like that's pretty confident words there. He thinks, even in the sideways game, I think that he has the advantage there. So any initial thoughts on that or a response to it there, Clifton?
I mean, most people do think that until it stops and then they quickly change. And it's funny because I'm like I always say this and I know people give me shit when I say this, but like to Jordan Sill, I'm like a nobody. So when it comes to like what you were saying about, um, I don't even have to win a match. I just need it. Even if stopping's a thing, he's going to come to realize real quick, me stopping him is going to be a completely different thing. And this is going to be a worse loss to him than him losing to Chuck Young in a tournament. He's going to lose potentially in a super match against a nobody. Potentially. I like Jordan Sill. He's a good dude. Like I said, from me just exchanging words once in a while, he seems like he's a pretty humble guy. But I hope that he isn't looking at like the John Therrien match. You got to realize too, the John Therrien match, when I was able to get purchase, it wasn't moving.
Right.
So
There was a professional foul there, if I recall, in order to escape.
yeah.
So
So I mean, if in my eyes, I mean, it's kind of not rocket science. Everybody knows to really really beat me is you got to keep me away from my side pressure. Well, if he's saying that he can go sideways and sideways, maybe he'll just start out in the hook and go sideways with me.
maybe, I mean, that would be kind of interesting.
I
And it
mean,
kind of sounds like Jordan. I feel like he's the type of person who kind of likes to know that type of stuff. So it sounds like that might be a move he might do. Is like, okay, this guy thinks he's the king here. Let's see if that's the case. And Dakota, I'm curious, just based off of what you know with Jordan Sill and John Therrien, what do you think the big differences between them are going to be in terms of what Clifton's going to have to deal with his style? I know you kind of went over it a little bit ago, but like stylistically, do you think there's somewhat similar pullers in terms of the challenges they're going to present him, or do you think there's a big key difference there that other people might not notice?
I mean, to be completely honest, I haven't watched too much of Still, but I have seen like just throughout the years the way he pulls and everything. But I think there's definitely some differences. The first thing I want to say to kind of step back before I answer your question, Andrew, I agree with what Clifton said. You can't look at the John Tyrion match and only look at that match and think you know how Clifton arm wrestles. And that's
Yes.
why I think he's saying, he said, I'd done no further research. I don't really know anything about this guy. I watched him pull at the arm bender the same day I was pulling. And from what I saw there, I can beat him, is what I got out of that message, right? And I mean, that's fair because I'm sure Sill probably thinks that he has more power than a John, let's say, because John was maybe the victor of that match. That might be how he's thinking about it. But I mean, I think honestly, like, if he does no further research and comes in that unprepared, I think that that would be an interesting thing to do because I think you might be in for a different kind of awakening. Like I can say me personally, I'm sure Andrew, you're the same way. If someone just picked a random match of me and watched it, it might be troublesome to kind of gather how you are as a puller. Maybe he's just saying that, maybe he's doing a ton of research, but it's interesting to me because I really like to keep up on my stuff beforehand. Anyways, I'll digress. And to answer your question, I think John is faster than Jordan. And I think that that's actually interesting because I think speed is what really got Clifton that one time. And I do think that John, without that speed, I'm not saying he would have won or lost, but I'm saying he would have had a lot harder of a time. And I also think that Jordan's frame, like, I think John is more of like a 198 guy, where I think Jordan kind of is up between that. Does he ever go to 242 or is he 220? He's pretty big, isn't he?
He typically pulls the 240, but his natural body weight's around 230.
Yeah. So
That's
he's like
kind of where he likes
242,
to be.
230, right? So I think there's a frame difference there. I've never gripped up with Jordan. Is his hand like his hand size, I'm assuming, would be a little bit bigger than John's.
I feel like hand-wise, he's very similar to like a Leif.
Yeah. So yeah,
I agree with that.
I think there's some ish similarities. There's some differences, the outliers there, but I think for the most part, like they're kind of attempting to get the same goal, if that makes sense. Like you kind of know what they're going for and how they're going to go for it, but they kind of do it a little differently. John's maybe going a little faster and he's maybe hitting you off that go, whereas Jordan's maybe going to brute force you a little more and use kind of his leverage advantages.
So, yeah, that's actually what really got me excited about this match, and I love that's the direction your mind went with it too, because I see the threat level to Clifton being in this, like the pressures that he's probably going to experience are very similar from Jordan and John in terms of like what lane they're going through and where their hand is going to attack. But yeah, the speed difference is where I see this being something again that, like, if you didn't watch the Jamie Sheldon match, if you didn't watch, with Victor Belov, you know, I think that it's going to be a little bit of a, I think you get caught off guard and things in that first round. And again, you never know until you're across the table, but just given the work ethic and given what we kind of know and see, behind the scenes that not everyone else does, then I definitely agree with you that that sentiment of only taking one match to try to understand someone is going to be a big mistake, especially, Clifton, who's extremely experienced. He probably doesn't know how many years Clifton has in, but that also makes me want to get into that second question here. I said that Clifton's known, to be nearly unstoppable once he gets in that hook. You still think you can get the job done if he goes there, or will you shut down his inside game completely? And as a caveat to that, I asked him too about whether he thinks the strap will matter or not in this match. And again, kind of similar to that first question, he said if he can get the hook, which is unlikely, he might be in the match. But even wrist to wrist, there's not many who can pin me. And he doesn't think the strap matters that much, but it definitely benefits him if he does get it, but he doesn't think he needs the strap. So how do you feel about that?
Sorry, he thinks the strap benefits himself.
Yes, Jordan thinks the strap is more beneficial for him, and but he doesn't think he'll need it either way.
Yeah, and me and him are kind of the same on that, where like I could care less about having the strap, but I know everybody says that I'm better in the straps. But I mean, that's kind of one of those things. It's going back to his first answer pretty much, is that it's just going to end up being one of those things that, I mean, in all reality, he should completely blow through me and I shouldn't win at all. But I feel like I might be able to stop him. And I feel like if it stops him saying that he's going to just blow straight through me wrist to wrist, I feel like that's not going to happen. I mean, I get it. He's like an elite arm wrestler and stuff like that. But I've had a lot of people, as soon as they go inside with me, and that is elite arm wrestlers, it's a completely different ball game. Like, I feel like I do have elite inside power, especially side pressure, elbow driven. So it'll be interesting. With him saying, if I get there, I completely agree with what he's saying with if I can get there. Because from my whole thing with this, it's definitely his hand. His hand's going to be strong. He's going to be, he's going to be a hard opponent to get through. Now, with that being said, if his left hand or if his right hand is like his left hand and I seen Miles go through his left hand, then that tells me then a little bit that I have some purchase, because Miles, and I haven't pulled Miles in like 2 years, but Miles has never broken my hand back ever. It has always went flat wrestling. Now, if we go with, we'll say, my Victor match, I think Victor would take Jordan Sill's hand right-handed easily. So, and Jordan and then Victor took my hand there. So I'm like, okay, so if he's not as strong as Victor, and I know I can stay flat wristed with Miles to a point, and he took there, I feel like it's got to be really close there. Maybe not strength, but at least something with stability. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So, and that's the biggest thing here. I mean, is that all I need to do is neutralize or stop. That's it. That's all it has to happen.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things that is, obviously you can say just with the amount he competes, maybe experience. Um, but one thing that you consistently hear when you hear about other high level arm wrestlers when they describe Jordan Sill is like, don't think you're gonna get what you want in the hand. His hand is it's like he just gets what he wants. He gets the setup. He gets the, you know. So I think the Victor Belov match was actually a really good experience and learning curve for you going into that because again, another super hand dominant person. But like you said, it'll be interesting to see when you do grip up, where his hand like between Victor and Jordan. He's like, okay, now you can say definitely Victor had more hand, or wow, Jordan had way more hand than I was expecting.
Right.
Now, say that is the case and Jordan just has a hand that's even like, 5-10% stronger than Victor's. Do you think you'll have to like switch up anything? Or do you think the way that your game plan's set up or your lane for victory, it doesn't really matter?
I mean, if his hand is stronger than Victor's and stuff, I know exactly how I'm going to go about this. I mean, I hope I don't get like how it was with Victor, just because I think that Jordan has more power than Victor, and I'll say a good amount more, and I don't want to hurt myself, but I do have some game plans if I can't handle a hand, but we'll see. You never know. Maybe I'll surprise myself and I can do something with the hand. Now, I don't think I'll ever take any of these guys' hand, but maybe I'll just stop it. You never know.
Yeah, you don't pull that way anyway, so it doesn't even matter. But Dakota, one thing too that's really important to note about this match that we haven't got into, and I think it could potentially play a pretty big impact if it goes the way that I'm thinking it's going to go. But Jordan is facing Logan Anderson on the left arm first.
Yeah, I mean, that's always interesting when people do that because how many matches are in between? Hold
No,
on,
I
let me
thought
look.
I thought isn't he facing me first?
I saw it when he just let me double check on that. I think when he put out the card,
So
but
I thought I was opening match into the.
I'm
let me
looking
s-
right now. I'll pull it up.
okay, yeah. So the last time I saw
Yeah,
Josh
no,
post it,
it's Clifton and Jordan pull first.
okay, so they are pulling first.
So they're
Okay,
match 10, and then Jordan will have to pull 3 more matches later again.
okay. So all right, so yeah, so you're not going first, but still, I think that the mindset or like knowing that you have a secondary match matters. At least it definitely matters to me. Anytime I've tried to pull on both arms, or even like at a tournament, because sometimes they go right arm first, left arm first. I feel like you definitely notice a difference, and maybe it's not the same for you guys, but for me, it's a big difference. And it makes me wonder if Jordan might be going. I should have asked him, but I wonder if he might be going in this match, thinking I need to win as easily as possible, and try to conserve energy, which would be a mistake, but I feel like it's hard not to get into your head when you have a matchup, coming up like that. So I think that could definitely be a potential factor in this. And again, on my prediction, I did predict actually Logan getting the left arm. So, um, do you see it going that way too, or do you think that Jordan having the handicap of being 220, like he was against Chuck, is going to be enough for him to be able to pull off the win?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, I wish it was 220. I wanted it to be 220.
Yeah.
Because that would have been perfect. But then, and I get it too. And his, like what you're saying, you go against somebody who's 300 pounds, you kind of want to be a little heavier. And from what I hear, he's going to be somewhere anywhere between like 225 and 235, 240. I don't know. He probably won't jump on the scale, but I think they're supposed to. I think we're going to be jumping on it. So,
Yes.
it does kind of, sucked a little bit for me on that. I wish he was 220. So now I'm having to like when I pulled John Therrien, I was 215. When I pulled Victor, I was 212, like 0.4, 212.5. Today I'm about 229. And then, so my goal is to get to 235, 240 by the time that I hit there. I probably won't hit 240. It'll probably be around that 230 to 235 is where I stay now. But you never know. Maybe I'll show up. I'll be like 270. You never freaking know. I tell you what.
Hey, just get those pancakes and syrup rolling, man.
But I do wish it would have been. I do wish it would have been 220. I think it would have been way different odds him 220 than him heavier.
Yeah, I'd agree because last year at the Armbender Dakota, when you saw his match against Leif, I would say that um, I don't know his official weight for that, but I think if I remember correctly, that like he was in the 240s for that match, is like which is the big Jordan Sill, and I think that's actually one of his strongest, best performances because we know how strong. Like a lot of people, because Leif doesn't travel a lot, so a lot of people don't know how good and how strong he is. So I actually think that that was a really, really good showing, and I think that the 220 showing in Idaho that Jordan had was not his best performance. And I don't know if it's because of the weight cut or maybe he had other factors. You know, as arm wrestlers, we always have like little injuries and stuff like that. But do you think there's been enough time, Dakota, between Idaho and now that to kind of correct those deficiencies or to come up in power? Because I think that that 220 version of Jordan, consider if it's the if power levels are similar to where he was in Idaho, then I actually think the favors of both matchups um, actually look pretty poor in his favor, um, and um, and that's hard, you know, to quantify just because of Jordan's, you know, legacy and how good he is as a puller. Um, but I think that that showing was a little worrying that close to the event. I mean, I know technically it's going to be like 8 months, but you know, it hasn't been the greatest year for Jordan's.
Saying, I think that there's more than ample time for Jordan to make adjustments on kind of what he's doing. And like, I mean, one thing I will say is I think it would be silly for Jordan to think that the Clifton that pulled John Therrien's coming in. But I also think it would be silly for Clifton to think that the Jordan Sill that pulled in Idaho is showing up.
I was going to say that too, is that if you want my honest opinion, I don't take anything in the tournament realm. I don't take anything from that tournament because I've seen Jordan Sill pull for a long time, and he's like anybody else. You have your good days and you have your bad days. And most of the time, if you see somebody that goes to a tournament that's a high end puller and he loses to numerous people, right handed or left, that that he shouldn't lose to, or that you would think that wouldn't even have a chance, and he loses it to him numerous times. I don't take that. I only take that with a grain of salt. It's like, okay, I see loops, but me personally, I think the Jordan Sill that was in that tournament is completely different than the Jordan Sill that pulled Leaf, and is completely different than a Jordan Sill that is coming up to be a heavier Jordan for a super match. You know, the only person that I'll give that I really, I mean, I'm not saying, I don't want to say I'll give credit to, but the only one that I look at from that whole Idaho thing is Miles and Jordan, because that was a legitimate super match, back and forth, that was well earned, everything like that. Like you were saying, you have a super match and then you have another one, or you have a super match and then you go to a tournament. Energy levels are way different. Frickin', you know, your adrenaline dumps are on all over the chart, everything
Yeah.
like that. Completely different. So I don't really take much to, I don't want to interrupt you, Dakota, but I agree with you. I do not take much whatsoever from Idaho. In my eyes, I'm going off of my head. The last Jordan Sill I seen in person was Leaf. And the last Jordan Sill I seen on video was the Chris Kringle.
Chris Kringle pool,
Yeah.
which was a good showing.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
good showing too. And that's what I'm saying. Like he's had good showing since Idaho. And yeah, I mean, I thought it was interesting. Leif pinned him backwards, right?
Yep.
Like back and over, and he pinned him once. So, you know, it just goes to show that there's ways to do it. I think that, yeah, I don't know. I think he's got more than ample time to make adjustments. I think both these guys are going to come in ready, and I'm really curious to see because, like, Jordan just kind of does that. Like, it's pretty basic. Like, he'll grab you, and then he kind of just leans and rolls, and just kind of hopes that your hand and your arm goes. You know, I'm curious to see too, like I know the arm bender rules, like we've got to read them, but because Josh Wilson made some adjustments, I don't know when he's going public with that. But I don't think there's anything that's going to affect this match particularly too much. But
Yeah.
one thing I will say, Clifton, is do you think that, so let's say worst case scenario, your hand does get taken. Do you think it will be harder for you to pin a guy like Sill the same way you pinned Victor on a regular table versus a Mac table?
Yes.
I would agree. Just because on a Mac, both people's endpoints are the same spot. So you can offensively go further than you're capable of doing on a table where your endpoint's here and their endpoint for defense is here. But I think you would have better access going straight down, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, I think overall, it's like I said, that move
Worst case
overall,
scenario.
it's
Yeah.
the same scenario. I don't know if I even feel comfortable in my head going to that situation with Jordan Sill. But if I know myself, if I have to, I'll just be like, ah, hell with it, I'm doing.
You know what though, Clifton? One thing I will say that I think your rise is quite slept on, and I think your ability to keep a straight wrist can be quite slept on. So the way Jordan kind of pulls, like Jordan's not kind of going like this, like he's not trying to post you
He's
off the
sleeping.
pad. He's sweeping sideways, right? Like side and back. So there might be some compromised hand there, possibly, but it all depends too, because if he feels uncomfortable and doesn't want to go that way, you never know, right? And I think that how do we know his lever length? Like, is his arm really long?
I can't even remember. It's got to be up on the last
Oh, it is
arm
on the
bender.
last arm bender. Okay,
Yeah, it is.
We got to be close. It's got to be somewhere around 21, is what I'm
because
thinking.
I was gonna say you have quite a long arm, which is surprising. I think to people who maybe haven't gripped up with you before, but I think that you can, like, I don't want to get too technical here, but I think you can work some angles on that by actually like making him drop his webbing a bit if you play the shorthand game.
Right.
Look at, I popped
Well,
open the
another
arm
thing,
bender. I'm look at where I got to.
God,
Nice.
This is where you put the brakes on him. But anyways,
that's the other thing too, is like with the Victor match, everybody's like, you got a weak hand, but you got to realize, first off, I got a small hand in general. I got a pretty small hand. So my hand, I
Right
feel
there
like
with you.
is, yeah, but my hand, I feel like is very strong. I have really good rise, cupping, everything is really strong. But when you go and put me up against somebody who has like a Miles Hutton or a Victor hand where they're just giant hands, my hand has to be so much significantly stronger to deal with the leverage strength. And people just don't understand that. And Jordan Sill, I'm guaranteeing you, he understands it, because I would have thought that Jordan Sill is a stronger hand than Miles. But Miles's hand, I mean, if you watch that match, Miles's hand dwarfs over Jordan Sill's hand, and they both are buckling back and forth of risk taking. I mean, that's where I'm saying, like, it has to be, it's just, I wish people wouldn't look at the Victor match and be like, Cliff's got a shit hand. Actually, I talked to Jeff Miller today, uh, Dakota, and I asked him, I just said, hey, how does my hand feel? And he thinks my hand feels ridiculous. But
yeah, your hand feels good. I think people kind of don't understand how great Victor's hand is. Like,
Yeah.
people seem to forget that Victor is the #1 ranked 220 puller left arm in Alberta and #2 right arm, arguably number
I was going to
one.
say, arguably number one. Well, we got to see that.
Arguably number one. And so, like, his hand is probably the best 220 hand in Alberta. And if you have the best hand in a class in Alberta, like, you're really good. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah. I notice that every time I come up and pull you guys. Trust me.
That's fair enough.
But what I think is interesting though with having the smaller hand is that even if you get your hand super strong, it's always good because the more your hands in the game, the better, obviously. But kind of a concept that you've mentioned in the past is it's like not necessarily training to top roll, but training not to be top rolled. If you maintain your pronation, you can, even if you lose your hand a little bit. See if I can get back. You can kind of pull from this position still.
Right.
So, and that honestly, that position isn't weak. Like if your pronation stays intact, having your wrist back like that, um, it's not a weak position to pull from. And I think that could be very surprising and interesting to see if I know your typical style, you're coming right up here. Well, more my wrist is fucked on that side, but more high up here, coming across like this. But like, man, if you just drive straight sideways and don't try to follow to the back of the pad, I just feel like that'd be really interesting to see with the way that, with that sweeping motion and just how that would end up colliding and like the angles or positions you'd be in. Like I said, I think when I think about this match, I feel like there's so many different interesting angles or positions and, one, finding out if you can, if you even just are able to just take them inside, period, right from the beginning, and none of that even matters. But if he starts going back and you have to kind of chase him, and then there's just battles of sideways, because we both know you're both going to go sideways. That's one thing that we know 100%. And how you guys meet up and where like your webbing height is when that happens, I think is going to be really, really key to this match, because that just determines who hand goes over or under, right? So yeah, no, like I said, I just feel like there's so many weird and interesting positions this match can end up in, and I'm just super excited. And so every video I've asked like what their favorite match is, and everyone's kind of universally said that this match is the one that
Which
they're
is
looking forward
crazy
to
to me.
most.
I'm not gonna lie. Everybody says that.
Yeah, that's what, and no matter who you ask, like when I travel around, and I talk to people, or I have people here on the show or anything, everyone just has nothing but good things to say about you, whether it's East Coast guys, West Coast. I think, obviously the Jamie Sheldon match and a couple other things definitely put you on people's radars, but like I'm just really excited to see if you get this and you pull off this win, where it's going to take you next, because I think that this could be like the launching board for you. But I also think this is a really important match, like you said earlier, for Jordan to win, because while I think you are highly respected, him winning this match versus losing this match, I think
It's expected for him to
it's
win this match.
right.
I think
So
that's why it's such a big match for him.
I do think so. I think there's probably a lot of pressure because it is very highly expected for that outcome to happen. Again, it's just, man, I love the arm bender, because there's a lot of these little kind of like, um, I don't want to say like niche or there's like these matches that have such significance just due to the regionality or some of the people who don't get to come out and pull as much or travel as often. Like, you're not necessarily out in Florida pulling, or I know you pulled, where was that event for the motorcycle?
Was in Florida.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was Florida. That's why I was probably thinking of it.
Worst example
Yeah,
of all time.
worst example.
Could have picked any other of the states.
Any other one, that's probably why that one came to mind.
No, it's all
But,
good. Just fucking.
I was probably going there just because that was the one place I remember you traveling. Like, it would have been cool to see you in Washington State, or Arizona State, or even Colorado State, just to see like the kind of damage you could do there. But there's so much of these matches at the Armbender that have like a lot of cool significance for people that we kind of come across in the region here up in the Northwest. And I'm curious which match are you looking forward to? Since everyone always says your match, which is the match that Clifton's looking at and most excited for?
Well, here's the thing. He's got to say, he can answer this, but if it hasn't been announced yet, he technically can't answer.
Well, I don't know, Dakota. Has your match been announced?
Yeah, mine's been announced.
So I think there's like, of course, I got a 3-way tie, and it's 3 of my good buddies. I gotta say.
Okay, well, the
Dakota-
Nathan match has been announced, the Ian match has been announced, and my match has
and
been
that's what I'm
announced.
saying. I'm gonna say I got a 3-way tie that I'm really, really excited to watch, because I'll be in all of their corners. Is Dakota and Bryan Johnson, and I love Bryan Johnson. He's the one that I feel like really started moving to when I got the Jamie Sheldon. I think I've tributed him almost at every tournament for the last 3 years now. I always say he's the reason this happens. So watching those two is going to be really good. I think that is a very interesting match. Nathan, having my, one of my training partners for the last 5-6 years, having to go against Miles to really, show that his cook is no business. I think that's going to be great. And I gotta say, I might be actually even a little more into the most out of all 3 of them. I gotta say, I think I'm more interested. The most is Ian and Dan. And the only reason why I say this is because Ian and Dan have went back and forth forever.
Lots of history.
Forever. And I have told Josh the last 2 years, and I think Ian has the last 2 wins on Dan left-handed.
Mhm. He does, yeah.
So I've told Josh forever that I feel confident enough to put Ian against a lot of people. I brought up Dakota. I think Dakota and Ian would be an amazing match also. I think Bryan Johnson and Ian would be an amazing match. Like those guys there, I feel like those matches are all going to happen within the next 5 years. It's going to happen. But I'm really excited about that. But it would be, yeah, those 3 matches are my main ones that I'm looking forward to, like personally. I'm here for the little guys. We're all the little guys, you know. You look at the Jordan Sill and all these big names and Sanders and stuff. They always get praise and all that stuff. It's time for us little guys to get the praise. And I think those 3 matches are gonna be bangers.
Yeah, and that again, that's another reason I think the Armbender is so cool is because of how much pride there is in the region. Like we have these big, huge names coming, but again, you always hear, "Oh, I can't wait for Clifton's match." Or like you said, I can't wait for Dan's match. Actually, Dan and Ian's match, I would say, is a pretty close second for what people are saying. I think like Tim and
Well, it's like what you were saying, Andrew, when it comes to the armbender, which this is what's awesome about this thing is that being up here in the northern area and stuff with North Dakota, Alberta, South Dakota, Minnesota, Montana, maybe not as much Minnesota, we don't really get as much as them, but Montana, North Dakota, Alberta area, it's kind of it's our east versus west. I mean, and it's really cool that I've told my wife, I'm like, first off, Josh has done so much for me when it comes to getting matches and getting, I mean, I don't think I'd be where I'm at right now, physically, strength wise, publicly wise, all of that, if it wasn't for Josh allowing me to take these matches and stuff like that. So I've told Amanda, like, I will be behind that guy every time, no matter what. I mean, he does great for the community. And yeah, I don't know, man. You don't even really need, and I think that's a bad thing with me when I say this is that you don't even really need to travel. Because I'm like in my head, I'm like, yes, I want to travel. Last year I hit like 10 tournaments. I was pretty happy about that last year. This year, I think I've hit 2. 2 or 1. Might be only 1. It might be only 1. But it's like I like the whole thing in my mind, which like you said earlier. I don't know. I'm just one of those guys that I like to have a match. And then in my head, I'm like, okay, this is my match. It's time to grind for 8 months, like hard. And I like just grinding and grinding and grinding and not stopping. And then when it comes time for the match, then I reveal where I'm at. And I feel like for me, like what you said, I feel like it's actually done pretty well for me because I feel like every time that you guys see me go away for like 6, 7 months and I come back, I make substantial leaps. So, which makes me feel good because it's like, okay, well, then what I'm doing is at least working. I'm just not testing it out before I get to the waters,
100%. And since we do have Dakota here, I definitely wanted to talk to about his match a little bit. And we have both of us have experience pulling Bryan quite a bit, and Dakota. This is all going to be a left arm match.
Mhm.
Um,
Andrew, can I say one thing about Sill before we jump into this topic?
oh yeah, absolutely.
I want to say that with Sill too, one thing I've noticed is he's the kind of guy where you either go really really outside with him or you go really really inside with him. Like you can't in between pull him. Like when Leif pulled him in round 1, Leif kind of top rolled. Like he kind of top rolled, and then Phil's very cup heavy. I think people don't always realize that. Like he's enabling his top roll through his hand being so solid through his cup that he contains while he does it, right? It's kind of like Matt almost, but
Slowed down, yeah, for sure.
yeah. And so I think that with Phil, you just have to commit. Like you either commit to going inside or you commit to going outside or you commit to going sideways, but you just do one of them and you can't like kind of do something a little bit. Like you have to go all in with it and put a lot of pressure on him in one spot. But
Right.
yeah, that's what I want. That's all I was going to say. But yeah, I'm excited to pull Bryan. It's left arm. My left arm's been feeling really good lately, and it's been showing up, doing really well. So I'm curious to see where Bryan's at and how it is, and hopefully get a win on the arm bender finally.
Dakota was smashing me in Edmonton left-handed, so I wasn't having nothing. I couldn't do nothing.
Yeah, and I think that's, really good to hear too, especially like we both know how it's not just a power game with Bryan. His lever is so, and his hand, his lever length, all that stuff comes together and it makes him really actually very puzzling to deal with. And I know
I
you
like
didn't,
solving puzzles.
right. I was just say, I know you didn't really settle on it, but I kind of liked it earlier in the year when you were trying to go with like that kind of like tactician or some kind of nickname in that thing, because it makes me feel like I'm really curious to see where you go and like how your mind works, and like once you feel it and you're in that setup with him, how you choose to either attack or defend or approach Bryan. Because I think the hardest part about arm wrestling Bryan is just dealing with, again, like it's just so, his hand obviously has really long forearms, but like the distance from here to here is really long on his hand. And so sometimes you feel like you're gripping really high, but you're not actually. And so you don't have the height that you really think you have if you're just going off feeling. So from what you've seen and what you've watched so far, and what you've now pulled with him, Clifton, like where do you feel like you see this match going? Do you think it's going to be inside? Do you think it's going to be outside? Do you think it's just going to be all over the place like Bryan likes it, just pure chaos?
I think Bryan's going to try for the top roll. I don't think he's going to succeed. I see this match stopping in 2 spots, potentially. I see this match stopping with Dakota out like this with his traditional drag back, how he likes to sit here like that. I see it stopping there and him figuring out. And I also see it Dakota over and Bryan being in his famous sitting here like this move.
Yeah.
How he sits off and it's like it. And those are the 2 spots I see that the match is always going to stop. What I like about the whole thing that you said, Andrew, is with Dakota being a technician, which I do agree. I think he's very smart on the table. He knows where to do angles, and if he's learning more and more from me on the side and stuff on how to figure it out.
Side's coming along from you for sure.
But
I got practice tonight. I'm pumped.
but he's it'll be really fun to watch, to see, to watch a mechanic work once he gets to the spot of what he's going to use, what tool, angles, how much torque he needs to use here. Is there going to be 2 angles used at once to cause, a fluctuation, a switch of direction, stuff like that? It'll be very interesting. I think when I look at Bryan, and this is, just my thought, is that because of watching Bryan throughout the years, I think Bryan isn't going to be too technical, and he's either going to go for the move and it's going to not work, and it's just going to be, he's going to always drain. He's going to try to drain and just sit here and try to drain and drain and drain. So that's where, Dakota knows. Dakota's, seen matches of Bryan and everything like that. He knows that is his biggest thing, I feel like, is that he needs to figure out is if he can drain, if by, I would say, once you start your rest period, I don't know if you do 2 weeks or 1 week out or 3 weeks, but right before your match, if that is, like I just say a month out from the match, if you are able to, if your endurance you think is going to match up with him. If it isn't, then you need to start figuring out, okay, not saying quit your endurance, but then you got to start figuring out, okay, how can I get around the endurance? Because it's the same way of aspect of me saying that I don't top roll. I don't train to complete top rolls. I train to stop top rolls. Well, it's the same thing with you. You're not trying to, at some point, you might not be trying to match his endurance, but you're trying to get around the endurance. And that's a completely different aspect of pulling. And I think you have both.
Yeah, thanks, Cliff. I think I'm curious because you know what, like I'm curious. I'm actually excited to pull him because I think like it's very rarely happened to me on my left arm, especially in a competition with people my weight, where I can take someone's hand and they can hold me. I think that Bryan might actually be one of those people, which I think is kind of exciting. He might not be. I want you guys to realize that. Like my hardest part might be getting his hand, like the way you guys talk about it, because I don't know. I've thought about it a million different ways already, and I just got to keep training. I've actually upped my just conditioning, like my physical conditioning for this match, just because I know he's a very conditioned human being, and that I've always believed that if your physical endurance is better, then your arm wrestling endurance will be better, your cardiovascular and everything. I run every day as is. When I go to the gym, I mostly do cardio now, and then I come back and I train at the house. But I've upped it. I've done a little more distance just because I feel like going the distance and getting those reps in is mentally helping me prepare for an endurance battle if it comes to that. I do honestly hope to just be way too strong. And I hope that everyone's like, okay, wow, like he took his hand and then he was able to have enough power to go sideways and he couldn't hold it. That's my goal. I'm not going to lie. But my left has some tricks. My left can hook. My left does have endurance. It's gonna come up. I got another, you know, 2 months pretty much almost on the dot to get it up a little more, and I plan on doing that. So
Yeah, and one thing especially since you guys just recently pulled, like you were saying, Clifton, like, and this got brought up in our last interview as well. Like how Dan was saying, like you were saying, where Bryan likes to get way out here in that weird position and drain you.
Hmm.
Does Dakota have enough lever length where he's not going to feel that need to chase it? Maybe like someone like us, where we get drained because we feel like we have to chase into that weird position where he can pull us out into the deep waters. But maybe Dakota, being a taller, longer armed athlete, maybe he doesn't have to worry about that as much just because he is. I don't know again how their arms are going to match up in terms of lengths and stuff like that. But do you think that that's going to be less of an issue just for Dakota specifically, just anatomically?
Well, leverages always are going to be better. And I think if I remember right, Dakota, you were about 3/4 of an inch longer fingertips than mine.
yeah,
I
about
think
that.
I was about the same elbow, or was I taller or elbow to wrist? For some reason, my elbow to wrist is always really long for
Yeah,
people.
your elbow to wrist was a lot longer than mine. Not longer, but it was more because my hand was longer and I had just a little bit.
Right.
But
So
yeah,
knowing that Dakota has more leverage, I think, I mean, 3/4 of an inch to an inch of more leverage, that's a huge difference when we talk about leverage positioning. So I think for sure he's going to have a less issue than if it was like me or you, Andrew. Like you said, getting drug out to the deep water and having to fight from it. I think it'll be harder. Now, with that being said, I think, God, he's got to be 22 and a half inch freaking. He's pretty long. I think he's taller than Dakota, but just because Dakota does have a good sized bit on my lengths, I think it'll be way better. I don't think it's gonna be as hard to do something with him in this position, because the thing is when he was in this position, you're putting all your power in and you're like this, pushing down on leverages up here, and you're kind of hurting yourself, of draining yourself of power. With Dakota being up, he can be up here. He's almost up there with the leverages. So it shouldn't really, I don't know. I think the leverages, to answer your question, long story short, the leverages I think is going to be definitely more equal than what we've been seeing.
Yeah, and
I have a question for you guys. Do you
yeah, go
think
for it.
Bryan has more of an advantage in or out of the strap in this match?
I think in the strap, he could potentially be very dangerous in the fact that he's just willing to put his arm on the line, and if he does stop it, he'll hang out there for as long as as humanly possible. So I think that could potentially be there. Like if you feel confident in your power. One thing I was going to ask in order to get a better assessment was with the Ryan match, did he force you into a hook or did you opt to go there with him when you in that third round?
So it was actually the first round we went into the hook. And actually what happened in that round is I hit into a top roll and I felt like I had a pretty comfortable top roll lane, and everyone was just kind of telling me, "Don't hook this guy." You know what I thought? I was actually dumb. I thought this, but I was looking at my dad, and he's always yelling. He's like, "Be the smarter guy," and I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna be the dumber guy, and I'm gonna go into this guy's power and see what happens." I was like, "I should have enough," and so I just kind of sunk it in a little bit. But I'm gonna tell you right now, my left arm is night and day from then. I had a bunch of injuries and stuff, and I think that my left arm was probably 10-15% stronger than the day I pulled Ryan in all my lifts and everything. Like, I think the person who's felt my left arm at its best right now would have been Caden Esmond when I pulled him last. I think Clifton got a pretty good example of it too when we pulled. But yeah, if anyone's kind of wondering on the capability of my left, I would say go watch my most recent match against Caden Esmond, because he did get me on like a flash off the start when I wasn't ready. But other than that, I kind of just had that match, and he got third at Canadian Nationals this year in the 176 category. So he's a little lighter, but that's still a stacked class.
Yeah, that's right. Now I'm remembering it was the first round where you went in there, then the last two you kind of kept it more safe. And
Yeah, after I realized I could beat him in the hook, but here's the thing. My left endurance has been coming along recently, and with the injuries that I had, like my left was out of commission for like a year and a half. I was pulling at practice and I kind of hurt something a little bit, so I would just practice with it. And then finally one day I was like, "Oh, it's feeling good again." And I went to a Red Deer practice and everyone's like, "Dude, you got to pull with your left. It's feeling really good." And then since then I've been kind of making the return. So Brad Prinz was my first one, and then Ryan, and then now Caden, and then Bryan. So it's on a little bit of like, yeah, my left arm's been doing well. So I'm really curious to see how it goes.
And
I'm
to
just
answer your
excited.
question, Andrew, I think that Dakota has, I think he'll do better in the straps than Bryan. But I've always told Dakota, I think Dakota's really good in the strap. I think he has a really good move that's in there. We've seen him do it, and I think I've seen him do it with both arms. We've seen him do it against Declan, and I just think, I think it's a good enough move to wear Bryan out.
see, that was my main concern with this matchup, was the potential for like, and I liked hearing you just say just now that you feel like your power is up a good deal from the Ryan match, because my thought process is that you know I believe Bryan Johnson, the version that I last pulled against him in like July, I would say he's about 15 to 20% stronger than Ryan is, just like arm wrestling fundamentals type strength. So yeah, definitely seeing, so that would be my main concern, like what Clifton just said, where I'm very confident in you pulling and you getting the win, is that what the Canadians always have against me, and that's superior setup and hand dominance. Because I do think that Bryan often loses center, and despite the difference in hand length, I didn't feel outhanded by him. So that's where I worry for Bryan. Um, so my concerns were going to be whether or not you had the power to contend with where his power level is at. And again, I think that the endurance is kind of a wild card, because the leverage can make the difference in the endurance. Because I feel like I get out endurance by him, just because I'm constantly chasing that long lever. And so again, I think that this could be a really good matchup, and I can't wait to have your guys, because there's a lot of things in your
Ask Ryan
guys'
a bunch of
interview,
questions.
and I don't want to give like or say too much, in these prior ones. But I think it's important
That's
to
fair.
talk about it since we have people here. But it kind of like what we were saying about the you know Jordan and Clifton definitely both going sideways and into each other. We know for sure. I think one thing we're definitely going to know for sure about you and Bryan is you guys are both going to be trying to go backwards, like right off the go. At least from what I feel like I know about you. But like what Clifton said, like if you do that same move that you did with Declan, man, I could see that being a problem for a lot of people, especially down here in the States, because like we don't, in this region, who pulls like that, and I feel like we don't get a lot of experience against that.
Isn't that crazy? Because I remember
What
when I think like within the first like 2 years of me knowing you, Andrew, it might have been you or it was Josh Wilson or somebody, but everybody was like, "Does everybody just have side pressure from North Dakota? Is that like all they do?" 'Cause I think everybody in my area, it's all side and hooking pressure.
It's
Pretty
different regions or
much.
different things. Like you go to Ontario, like they have so many pullers, but it's a lot more of open top roll, king's move. You have a few good guys you can hook there. Um, but yeah, it just depends where you go. No, I think the Bryan will be interesting. If he can outrise me, I would be surprised. I think like, and I'll openly say this, I think his best lane to beat me would be to get in a position where he can kind of work some weird angles maybe on my arm, or to be fast. Because I'm not gonna lie, guys. He looked pretty quick against Sam Gitline at the last Armbender. Like, I've
Mhm.
watched that match a few times. He looked good, but he also looks like he pulls like you Montana guys pull. He likes to lift that elbow. He likes to get comfortable in that setup, and I think Sam gave him a bit too much. Like, if I'm Sam, I'm not allowing that to happen, and so I think that's where it also becomes a fun match, is because sometimes with the way the Armbender's kind of a Wild West refereeing sometimes is sometimes when Keith is saying go, someone is at a little bit of a disadvantage, and that can be the difference maker, really. Can be a complete difference maker. But yeah, I don't know. I have like 3 or 4 game plans that like we can talk about in private. I don't want to talk about it here. But um I gotta feel like I pulled Bryan once. I've pulled him once when Matt and I came down to train in Montana. I gripped up with him and he felt very good. I'm much different than then, but I remember how good he felt, and it's been motivating me. I'm just curious to see as the match progresses, I will know more. It's like you said, this one's kind of a big puzzle for me because as soon as I grip up with them, it's going to answer a few questions. And then after the first go, I'm going to have a few more answered. And then that's going to kind of determine where I want to take the match. Like, obviously, if I can't get through his hand or if, I can't like, let's say I get the hand, but I can't go through it sideways. There's different things I have to do. It's not just one thing where I say I'm coming to do this, so it'll be interesting. Maybe I'll have to flop wrist press him. You never know.
Yeah, and I'm actually gonna make a little bit of a bold claim, even though I know I said that this move could be a interesting spot for you. I actually think, and I can't wait to talk to Bryan about this too, but I actually think your best lane against him is actually in the hook. I think that
Andrew, please, we're talking left arm. We're
I
talking
know,
left arm.
but I'm telling you, I know this might sound surprising, but like I said, I've pulled him, and I know where he's strong, and I know where he felt vulnerable, and I don't think he likes that anymore. And I'm really curious to see if it's really hard to get him there,
Yeah,
you know. But he definitely, I don't know if you saw our match, but the first 2 rounds going outside, I just couldn't figure out what to do with that. But the last round, he wanted to go inside, and I definitely had a lot more
I did see
purchase in
that.
there. And I think that at the time that was like right before Armsgeddon. And I think at that moment where my strength was and where my hook was, I think you're actually ahead of that. And but yeah, Bryan's so weird. And I'm just really interested to see how, because I feel like Dakota's experience with gripping him might be so different than ours, Clifton, because his hand is different.
It's gonna be a weird match. It's gonna be
It's
definitely
so
a
hard to
different match.
predict. It's so hard to
Okay,
predict.
on that topic, before we go, Clifton, in case we don't get you back, and Andrew, I want you to say it early. You can say it again. You probably change your mind by the time we interview with Bryan. What percentage, like who's the favorite and by what percentage? And then I'll do your match, Clifton, before you go too.
I mean, I could take this off like right now. I actually have it 55-45 in Bryan's favor.
I got it at 98-2.
Shut up.
No,
Shut
no,
up.
I'm just joking. No. Actually, I think Andrew kind of took it out of my mouth a little bit there. I think I'm gonna actually even go a little, because I've said it from the first time that I heard about this match, and when I talked with Josh about him stuff, is it's the endurance thing. And I know you're training endurance. That is the first thing that's in my head. I
Dude,
have
I'm gonna gas
nightmares
him
of,
out.
hey, I have nightmares of me being in that endurance grind with him.
If you gas him
So
out and make him quit, that would be epic. I
I
don't think I've
know
ever
how
seen
it
it.
is. So I want to say, I'm just going to do the same thing as Andrew. I'm going to say 55-45. Benefiting, it's going to be more, it's actually closer to that. It's more like a freaking 48-52, something like that,
Yeah, it's
really.
very, very close.
I think it's somewhere around there. It's a very slight favorite to Bryan, but Dakota, you're my buddy. The only reason why I say that is because of the endurance. If the endurance was not what I know what Bryan has done, I think that it would edge towards you winning. But the locking of the endurance is where I'm like, I don't know. Now, if we go up there and you just flash pin him, I probably won't even be in your corner anymore. I'm going to go get a beer at the bar and just let you do your thing. Because
Well,
I will be like, yeah, he broke the code. He knows what's going on. Pandora's box has been opened.
if I flash pin him twice, I'm slow pulling in the 3rd round.
That'll be like 3 people then that Dakota's beaten that I've
That's what I was
lost.
gonna say. That's what I was just gonna say too. Like, Clifton, I'm like, I don't even know a good example for it, but
You
I'm
just
like,
get, hey, you get all of my freaking stragglers that I couldn't take care of myself. I'm like, Dakota, please finish this off for me.
yeah, Declan, and then Bryan, and then who am I gonna pull next? Maybe might have to call out Sill if you'd lose, or John Therrien, or
All
we'll
right. Well,
see.
what about me now, guys? What do we got? I mean, and don't, I know you guys know me, but I mean, be fair here. What do you think?
Before I
I
say that
think
prediction, though, I do want to say, though, I think if it was right-handed, I would actually have you as a pretty big favorite. I would actually probably have you 60-40
I would say
right-handed
that.
against
I
Bryan.
would say that considering where Bryan has and where he was before, I think that Dakota would be the favorite right-handed. Endurance still would be a thing, but I just don't know where his endurance is right now on his
I think
right
the
hand.
power, Dakota's power on the right, I think would be too much.
It is pretty strong. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I can't. It's hard for me. I can only go off what I've seen. So.
Andrew, I'm telling you, I'll say this here. I don't say this on camera too much, but my left arm can rise 25 more pounds than my right arm can. That's why you see me pull like this with my right arm. The first thing to go on my right arm is usually my rise. Much as I hate to say
I
it, it's
can
true.
say too, Andrew, that Bryan, I have never lost. I've beaten Bryan twice. I've never lost to him left-handed. And I've did my little press move that was really good there for a long time. And I tried that numerous times with Dakota, and it gets here and he yanks me back. I couldn't do anything. So that's where I'm like, that's interesting too, because I'm like, I know where I was able to exploit the vulnerability of Bryan, and I can't do that with Dakota. So there's something there that I don't have that I don't know. There's gonna
It's
be
a
some
fun
voodoo
match, guys.
magic. I'm telling you.
I can't wait to have Bryan on. I hate to sound selfish, like I'm really pumped for your match, Clifton, but I think this might be the first time where I get into an endurance-based match, possibly, and the guy matches me endurance-wise. Like, usually, someone's so much stronger than me that they kill me, or usually I tire people out. It's been so long since someone's came up to me and been like, "Be careful, he's gonna gas you out if it's close in strength," and that's why I'm really excited.
All I
And
know is Andrew's inviting me to co-host with that damn
Yeah, yeah,
prediction. I want to do it. Come on.
I will call you up there for sure.
yeah, dude. But anyways, for your match, Clifton, I am gonna boldly say 55-45 for you. I'll say it. I've seen how you've been training. I know I told you like a month ago that I had it 60-40 still, but I've seen the path that you're taking and your dedication, and I have to be envious of that because you train harder than anyone. And I do think that if you follow game plan and you work and you work and you keep working until the day of, which I know you will, that I will give you a slight edge on Sill, only because he's not as fast as John Therrien.
I think Clifton might actually be faster than Jordan as well.
I'm pretty off though. I mean, I think the first time Andrew met me, I was like super fast. And then a couple tournaments there, like I'm like really slow. I'm fast here. I'm all over the board. But
Speed is such a weird topic in arm wrestling, though. I'm actually making some videos on this. I'm making a video on speed and I'm making a video on endurance. I explained the endurance thing to you already, Clifton, but we can think someone's fast because they're pulling people 20% weaker than them. Anyone's fast against someone 20% weaker. Ready, go, bang. You know what I mean? Oh, he's quick. Same with endurance. Anyone can look like their endurance is crazy if they're pulling someone weaker than them. And sorry, I know I'm taking up a ton of your guys' time here, but I'm going to dive into this quick for a second. If Andrew and I are pulling, and Andrew is 40% stronger than me, and so in order for me to pull Andrew, I'm at 100% and he's at 60%. I might only be able to go full out for 30 seconds at 100%, but Andrew might be able to pull at 60% for 3 minutes. So theoretically, anyone that watches that pull will think Andrew's endurance is crazy. But then if Andrew were to meet someone who's 20% stronger than him and he can only pull at 100% for 20 seconds and the guy can pull at 80% for 2 minutes, then people would be like, I thought Andrew had good endurance. That's why matches like Clifton and Jordan or Dakota and Bryan are fun, because we're setting these matches up in hopes that the power level is somewhat close. and then it turns into a who actually has more endurance, who actually is faster, who actually is more technical, because you're only able to tell those things when you're being put at your peak and someone else is also being put at their peak. That, in my opinion, is what makes a good match. A good match is when two people's 100% is pretty close, and then you find out who can actually work other things better.
Yeah, who can find those little angles and those little advantages and leverages for
I
sure.
think that's why people talk about Declan and I so much. Declan is probably stronger than I was, but Declan without his hand, his 100% was pretty close to my 100% in a losing position with pronation. And we
Declan,
had
even in being in those ugly positions, is still freakishly strong. It's crazy. Yeah, if he gets that little bit more of technique down, I definitely like to see that back again.
Yeah, Clifton and Declan have unfinished business.
Yeah, they do. They have unfinished. I know that's a sore spot for you, Clifton, but
Armbender
Hey,
2027.
I don't want to
Declan
talk
is
about it.
freakishly strong. He has that really good explosive strength, and he can pull in ugly positions.
But anyways, Andrew, give us your prediction and then we'll get off of here.
Yeah, so my prediction prior to some of these questions and talking to Jordan a little bit was that Jordan was going to actually have the edge, just going off pedigree, going off time. But also some of that was before the Idaho matches. And I know we kind of talked and you said that there's plenty of time, but I still think that you can only be so much stronger. And I actually do, kind of similar to the Logan match. I'm actually going to go ahead and say that I think that this one, it's another 60-40 for me. I think that Clifton's going to take and this isn't just because, you're my buddy or my pal. I do think I look at those Idaho matches. I feel like I know where the strength levels are pretty good. It's hard to just judge off of gym lifts and everything else, but I feel like just based off a couple things, talking to some different people, seeing the more recent matches, I think that I really feel very strongly and very confident. This is a match I would put money on actually, because I think a lot of people would vote for Jordan, and I actually really like and look up to Jordan Sill as well. He's one of my favorite because he pulls in this region, and we get to see him a lot, So it's hard to see, kind of what you want to call like heroes falling, but at the same time, like I think you've arrived, Clifton. I really do.
Well, I appreciate you guys. I mean,
You've
makes me feel
arrived
that now.
is
I hope I
so
don't let you
cool.
guys down or anything.
Nah, dude.
But who do you? So I know you guys want to get off, but okay, that arises a question then. So who do you think is a harder opponent for me? John Therrien or Jordan Sill? I mean,
John
really?
Therrien.
And you say that because of speed?
I say that for two reasons. You're a power puller, not a power taker. You're the one that taught me this. Second reason, you do way worse against speed than you do against power because you're a power puller. John Therrien was taking your power with speed. Jordan is going to have to overtake your power. That's how I look at it. And I'm not saying he can't. He might be able to. But
Right.
what I'm saying is anybody has a better chance of taking your power than they do outpowering you. That's just how I think of it in my head. Like if I'm pulling Clifton, I'm not thinking I'm going to meet him head on and beat him. I'm thinking how can I work around what he's good at and beat it? And I know that John thought the same way. I think Jordan right now is thinking I'm just going to be stronger than this guy. And I think that whether he's capable or not, that's a harder route to take. That's like taking the icy sidewalk versus the heated sidewalk.
Yeah. Well,
You have
no,
a chance
that's
to you have a chance of slipping and falling on the icy sidewalk, and when you slip and fall, you might not like what happens.
Do you? And then that leads to one more thing from you guys. Do you guys think? Of course. Okay. Because like what I said with John Therrien, if I got one win, it would be a huge difference for my career. I never got that win, but I got a stop that made people look. Do you think that's the same scenario here?
I think if you get one win, you should get three because
Mm.
he's not going to outspeed you. So to answer your question, no, but yes. I think if you lost
yeah,
3-1, I would not be happy. But I think if
yeah, that
you get
was unlikely.
if you get a win, the odds tilt in your direction severely because I think the only way that I see him beating you really is a top roll. And I also think that, yeah, I don't know. I actually think endurance could come into play a bit too, but not in your favor, Clifton.
Yeah.
If he's dogging you in the hand, I could see endurance going against you.
Right.
Those
Yeah,
are the
and
two things I see.
where my thought was is kind of similar to yours, I think, Dakota, just in a slightly, because my mindset would be like, well, what would I want if I was facing Clifton? What would I want to do? And I feel like my game plan would have to be designed around how do I knock you out of your shoulder right off the bat? And I think that's something that John was, again, the speed thing. It gets you out of your power position, but I think with Jordan, you're going to be engaged with your shoulder already. So I don't think you're not going to be like engaging when you're already like neutral or slightly out of your shoulder. You're going to be engaged when you still have your shoulder behind your hand. And I think that's going to make the big difference. And I think that's where people are going to see like the training that we know kind of come in to play
Mhm.
here. To me, that's where it was. Again, it came down to the speed. It's all about the speed. And you guys are both going to go sideways. And I'm just going to say it. I think you have more sideways than him. And the only question is going to be is he going to, like Dakota said, be able to rise over your hand and get that top roll sunk in and just out leverage you from that point and turn it into a war of attrition.
Oh, sorry. Keep going.
But yeah, no, I think you have more sideways. And I think what tilted it more in the favor, even more than like 55-45 for me personally, was just I think you're going to start in your shoulder. And I think that there's very few people who are going to beat you when you have your shoulder engaged.
I retract my statement. I could see you getting a pin and not winning on one condition. If Jordan in the first round says, I'm going to hook this guy, and then he goes in for a hook and you blast him, and then he changes to a top roll and his top roll is enough to give you problems.
Right. I agree with
That is a way I could see you getting a pin and not winning. Other than that, if he goes for a top roll or something and you stop it and get a pin, I think that like theoretically you should have enough to win.
Wouldn't it be nuts if I just beat him by a top roll every round?
Dude, you should do it. Well, you'll have me in your corner.
Andrew would be like, I've never seen this guy top roll once in his life.
Honestly, though, you know what I think you would probably be good at? You know that move where you hook and then you top roll out of the hook?
Top roll out.
You
I
kind of
think
did
you'd
that
probably be
against
good
Jamie
against that.
Sheldon. You were like this, like that camera angle. You're like this, and you're looking at him, and then you just kind of lean.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that would be a good move for you, honestly.
Yeah, I told Clifton because
There's so many. Sorry.
he's like, oh, I got a ton of people in my corner. I'm like, yeah, but there's one who you're listening to.
There's gonna be like, Andrew, there's gonna be like 6 people in my corner.
Yeah, hopefully you have like one loud voice set up to take there because sometimes having too many people could probably be a problem.
No, I'm a crazy hype man. Ask Cody or Zach at Mayhem in the Mall. I was
Sorry.
Go. No, you go.
No, you finish.
I was gonna say I was freaking hyping him up like crazy.
I think one of my biggest issues, if I gotta say my biggest issues, is a lot of the time I lose my first round. That's a big thing. I know Joe Fear told me that. He was like, Cliff, you always lose your first round, it seems like. And then after that, you mentally get into the game. Which that leads me to my biggest thing that I'm always worried about is that I'm such a mental puller. Like if I show up and I'm amped and ready to go, I feel like I'm unstoppable. But if I have doubt, then instantly it dubs me down. But it also does work the other way. If I have doubt and it dubs me down and I get a pin or I get a stop, instantly everything starts to rise and I start tapping in more.
You want to hear a little something that might help with that?
Mm.
It's worth trying.
Jack Daniels?
Jack Daniels. There's a little bit of a better. I don't know if you've ever looked into it, but it's called ashwagandha.
Ashwagandha.
Specifically, the KSM 66 really helps eliminate anxiety, nerves, and just it keeps you level. I think it makes it a little bit harder to get like super amped, but I think it's a lot easier to like get your head and at least for me to kind of get like angry or like really get like ready. But it takes away like for me, it takes away like the nervousness, the anxiety, and then so that's why I take it before bed most nights. But before pooling, like before this event in Lethbridge, I was like, you know what? Let me try this because I'm like a high nerves. Like I feel I can't even eat because I have stomach. No matter what, even if it's like a really little tournament that I know I'm just going to go undefeated in or whatever. Then, but yeah, I felt so calm and so relaxed and so peaceful. And then just, you know, a couple minutes before, I just got my music going and did everything I needed to, and I was able to get hyped up. I just didn't have like any of those stomach butterflies or any of the anxiety associated with it, and I feel like it definitely helps.
Okay.
But it
I'm
needs
gonna
to be
check it out.
the KSM. You'll see. There's two different. There's regular, and then there's like KSM 66. I think it's called. I'll send you a picture of the one I use, but
Yeah, send it to me.
I have
I like
okay,
it.
one more now, and then I gotta go to practice, guys. I'm gonna be so late, but I'm having so much fun. Is Bryan one of those guys where you pretty much guarantee, like, on game day, he's ready to rumble and he shows up?
Yeah.
It's good, because that is one thing I like, my dad talked to me about this, but, you know, on Clifton, Andrew, you guys both know this, you've been in the sport long enough, but I think that with arm wrestling, there needs to be a level of professionalism that comes in. And one thing my dad's always said to me is he's like, on game day, it's freaking game day. Like you show up, you be ready to play. And that's one thing I take a lot of pride in is like when I have a match and I know the day and I'm ready to show up, like I always show up gung ho. And so I love to just hear that my opponents are always ready to rumble and ready to go because dude, like I want Bryan to be good. Like I want Bryan to be so good. I want Clifton to be good. I want Jordan Sill to be good. I want all of us to be at our best. And you know what? It's arm wrestling. One person's always got to lose. It sucks, but that's why we go and do it because there's a chance we're not gonna. So,
Bryan does not get nervous ever for
well,
anything.
he's been doing it a long time.
Yeah, he's
Like this
and
guy.
you can find it on YouTube. It's on Monster Michael Todd's channel. I think it was 3 years ago. He was doing like this big tour around the United States, and he went to Great Falls, and everyone was all like awe-inspired. You know, my Monster Michael Todd's here, and then you know Bryan just kind of like calmly walks up and it's like, "Are you ready to pull? Like, are we gonna do this or like?" And I'm pretty sure he got a pin on Michael left-handed there at the practice. So
Well, he's pulled Jombers Inc. Like Bryan Johnson is a freaking legend,
the
you guys.
legend, yeah.
Like literally, Matt Mask trained with the guy. I'm like, "Oh, I'm pulling Bryan Johnson at the Armbender." He's like, "What?" He's like, "That's gonna be a good match." He's like, "That's gonna be a tough one, though." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." He's like, "When I was getting into arm wrestling, I would watch Bryan Johnson arm wrestle." Like that's this match just means much more to me than being a match. And Clifton said this before. My dad said it to me. Like this is probably the biggest match of my arm wrestling career. And I think if I get a win here, it kind of solidifies to a lot of people that I'm maybe entering another level in the sport.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the first thing everyone here told me in Montana when I very first started. They're like, I was like, I'm really goal oriented. Like, what should I do? And they were like, well, first, you know, you want to win an amateur tournament, then you want to try to win a pro tournament. But like, really, in Montana or this region, like, if you want to make a name for yourself, your goal should be getting a win on Bryan Johnson. And that's what every single person has universally told me. That should be your goal because if you get a win on him, people take you seriously. So.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be good. Hey, Clifton, thanks for coming on, man. It was a blast to have you.
Awesome.
I sit and talk. I think I talked to Clifton more than I talked to anyone in my life. Talked to Clifton on the phone, then I talked to him on an interview.
I feel everybody talks to me about arm wrestling constant. Andrew's a part of that group too.
That's perfect. But yeah, guys, I'm heading to practice. That's about it for me.
I appreciate it, gentlemen.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for this episode tonight. Very full of information, as you guys can see. If you like what we're doing, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to check out Dakota's channel, and we will catch you guys next time.